Good evening, everybody. Welcome. This is Two Way Tonight. I'm Mark Halperin. In the pregame show, we're doing a little quiz, which I'm going to bring everybody on here to start the program. Remember, I don't read the chat, but I do glance at it, and particularly for games and quizzes, I'm a chat habituer. Is that the right word? Habituer? I don't know. Anyway, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, did an interview with NBC that ran a little while ago, and the lead of it is he denounced anti-Semitism while at the same time said he didn't think the Republican Party was all that anti-Semitic and there were just a few bad apples. The reporter seemed to bring it up in the context of Ted Cruz, who's been very outspoken. And of course, Tucker's at the center of this, and the vice president and Tucker are friends, and Tucker's son works for the vice president. So that's kind of like if the hard news lead. But more intriguing to me, as I was telling the folks in the pregame here on the Two Way platform, three Democrats identified by the vice president, elected officials who he finds interesting, compelling, and thinks they're out there working hard to try to figure out solutions. Who are the three Democrats? Put it in the chat. Some of them have already. Two of the three I've seen flash by. In fact, I've seen two of the three flash by. But start over. Just wipe this way clean. Don't look at the previous chat, but try to guess, and eventually I'll tell you who they are. In any event, welcome in. Newsday, another Cats and Dogs Newsday. Not a ton of rock'em sock'em major news, but certainly some developments we'll want to talk about. And if you're here in the Two Way platform, you want to get in the conversation, we've got two guests joining us in a moment. One, I'd say, mainstay of the Two Way platform, and then first time, maybe long time, we'll find out whether Kevin Walling, Democratic strategist, ever even seen the show before. If he hasn't, he's violated my rule. Never go on a show you've not seen or listened to. We'll find out. But Kevin's here, and Elizabeth Pipko's here, who is a Republican strategist, advisor to President Trump, amongst many others. They will join us in a moment. Kevin was a Democratic strategist and worked with the Biden-Harris folks in as Barbara Walters would say, 2020. We'll get through the news. You'll get your chance to get in the conversation. If you're here on the platform, raise your hand if you'd like to speak. If you're watching on X or on YouTube, let me give you a few instructions. Grab a pencil, jot this down. Don't raise your hand because we can't see you, can't call on you. Don't put smack in the chat. And if you don't know, some people say, well, Mark, what constitutes smack? I'm with the Supreme Court. You know it when you see it. No smack in the chat. Think about peace, love, and understanding, presumption of grace to all. Think about this platform being a little different. And people sometimes say to me, well, Mark, you're just calling on people who raise their hands. How do you know they're not going to say something outrageous? Almost never happens because we can see you. We can hear your real voice. Your name is on the screen. And isn't that magical that when that happens, people are so civil, interesting, compelling, engaged? Doesn't mean they don't ask challenging questions. Doesn't mean they don't represent red or blue ideas. But then we get to the chat on YouTube, where you're anonymous, screen name Gumby Jones 48. When you're Gumby Jones 48, you can write anything you want, apparently. But what I'm saying to you is just don't put smack in the chat, even as Gumby Jones 48 or whatever. I don't mean specifically Gumby Jones 48. I hope that's clear. In any event, big news day on multiple fronts, but not huge news day, I would say. But we'll cover it all. I'll read the headlines, and Kevin and Elizabeth are going to comment, and then again, we'll get to your questions. Grateful to have you here. Here we go. Message first from our sponsor at Cozy Earth. Cozy Earth makes clothes and towels and blankets that couldn't be softer, more comfortable, higher quality, and yet now, inexplicably, because America is great, because America is good, 40% off. 40% off everything on the Cozy Earth website, cozyearth.com. Use the promo code TWOWAY. Buy stuff for yourself. Buy stuff for your family. If you've got a man in your life who you think never really thinks much about his pants, buy him some Cozy Earth pants. And he will thank you, and he will ask you for more. They're extraordinary. The bubble cuddle blanket, also extraordinary. The towels, the blankets, the sheets rather, all extraordinary. All available now to you for 40% off. Go to cozyearth.com. Use the promo code TWOWAY. And if you order by December 12th, you'll get it before Christmas. And if you miss that, you can still use the code TWOWAY, but it's going to go down to 20% off. So act now. If you get the post-purchase survey pop-up, and it says, how did you hear about Cozy Earth? Don't put in, don't remember. Don't put in, I think it was on the radio. Put in, you heard about it on Two-Way. Give the gift of comfort that lasts beyond the holidays and carries into a cozy new year. Thank you for your attention to that matter. Ladies and gentlemen, making his Two-Way debut, and he's going to be a little nervous because that's natural. Here's Kevin Walling. Kevin, welcome in. Unmute if you would. Tell folks, Kevin, a little bit about how you became a Democrat.
Hey, Mark, good to be with you. Long time listener, first time caller, hopefully a long
Okay.
time guest to your point. I grew up in central New Jersey. My grandmother was a big city mayor in East Brunswick, New Jersey in the 70s. Progressive woman, took all five of her boys to Woodstock, served in the Navy during World War II. Huge influence on my life
Wait,
in
I'm
terms
sorry.
of
I'm sorry. I got to stop you. All five of you went to the concert at Woodstock?
all five. My dad, she took her sons. My grandmother
Oh,
took
your
all five.
grandmother. Your grandmother you're talking about was the mayor.
Yeah. Took them
Amazing.
to Woodstock.
How old were the boys when they went to Woodstock?
And they were all teenagers, I think.
Amazing.
So, uh,
Did they smoke pot with your grandma?
that never came up, but I will
Okay.
double back with my dad tonight.
Okay.
Maybe
All
he's
right.
watching.
Keep going.
Maybe he's Gumby Jones. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a good
Um,
story. All right. So you come from a political family and a progressive one.
Yep, huge influence on my life.
Good.
She got elected in 1972. Unfortunately, died 3 years later in office, so I never got to know her.
Uh,
But her influence and her stories and what she was able to accomplish, I grew up with, and that has stayed with me. I was a kid intern for a guy named Rush Holt, who was our congressman from Central Jersey. Came down, studied politics and theology at Catholic U. Worked for a guy named Tom Carper from Delaware. Everybody knows Joe Biden. Not a lot of people know Tom Carper, the junior senator that served with Senator Biden at the time, and have worked in Democratic politics ever since. So started off as a kid, loving and studying politics, and that's been my life ever since.
Now, Kevin, that's a great story. Tell us what you're good at. What are your skills that you're kind of best at?
I'm good at this comb over and
Yeah, that
making things
looks
look good
good.
on
Yeah.
TV. Good at framing the video. Thank you,
Okay.
COVID, and all that time spent in there.
If somebody was going to hire you to work on a campaign, what would they say? We need Kevin because he's good at what?
So my day job is I do media strategy. So I make the TV ads, digital ads for folks running for office. And we worked for a number of members of Congress, governors, senators, up and down the line. My firm is called HG Creative. We do a lot of ballot campaigns. So literally like getting the polling data, figuring out what messages resonate with what audiences, and getting that ad out in front of the right audiences to elect Democrats up and down the ballot is what I do for a living, and
Great.
hopefully
Well,
what I'm good at.
all right. Well, Kevin, great to have you here. Really appreciate being here. Of all the people I've ever met, the person least likely to have gone to Woodstock is Elizabeth Pipko. Right?
That is
Elizabeth
a
is
hundred percent right.
yeah, 100% right. Elizabeth is from New York City, and she's a strategist as well. And who have you worked with besides Donald Trump, who folks would have heard of?
I mean, that's really it. My first job ever was Donald Trump's presidential campaign, and luckily we won, and I have worked for him ever since. Obviously, I was the spokesperson for the Republican Party, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess that counts, but it's Donald Trump's Republican Party for now, so it's just Donald Trump.
Who was the chair of the party when you worked for the party?
So I came in right when they swapped over. So when Michael Watley and Laura Trump came in, I came in as spokesperson.
Got it. And just so you know, I had lunch at a kosher restaurant today, and thought of you because I knew you were going to be on. And the people there couldn't have been more friendly, and the prices couldn't have been higher. I don't know.
Which kosher restaurant?
The place at 80 Columbus and 83rd. You know the place I'm talking about? Hey, I'll
I
send you
would
the
if you
name.
gave me a name. The Upper
I'll
West
send you the
Side
name.
is where it's very, very, very overpriced and not very good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, it was good, but man. Anyway, just so you know, it was a dairy restaurant. Thank you both for being here. Grateful to have you. You two are just going to chat amongst yourselves, and I'll try to stay out of the way as we start talking about the news. Here's the thing that really bothers me, and I predicted this would happen, or I hoped it wouldn't, but I thought it might. I should say. Up on Capitol Hill today, Admiral Bradley was there, and the head of the Joint Chiefs, and they briefed the members of Congress, House, and Senate, and they showed them the video of the so-called second tap. And again, I hate this. If you're a Democrat or a Republican who's generally willing to be overly critical, or critical, I should say, of openly critical of President Trump, the video showed that what was done was horrible. That one Democrat Congressman Hines, will play in a second, said it was the worst thing he'd ever seen in his career. And then Tom Cotton and the Republicans who support Donald Trump said nothing to see here, no problem. Same video. And it bothers me because I don't know how the American people could have confidence that these are public servants just doing the public interest as opposed to politics. In any event, that's the big issue up on the Hill. Admiral Bradley, number one, said that Pete Hegseth didn't order everybody to be killed. And that's, of course, what the Washington Post seemed to suggest in its reporting that set this firestorm off. Here's the Post. Hegseth did not issue, or this is Fox News rather, Hegseth did not issue, quote, kill them all order during Venezuela strikes, Admiral tells Congress. So the chronology, if you're to believe the administration and the admiral, is Pete Hegseth said, go carry out this mission, destroy the ship, and that the second tap was done not to kill these two guys, but to destroy their capability and keep them from transferring the cargo, and that they were collateral damage. And I believe it's the case that you're going to find very few constitutional scholars to say that that's not legal under the current circumstances. Some would, but that's a big difference, I guess is what I'm going to say. All right, as compared to targeting these two guys. Number two, and this goes to the heart of the thing that's bothering me so much because I just think it's bad for America. Number two, this is the New York Times headline. Lawmakers split after viewing video of boat striking survivor killings. Top military officers showed senior members of Congress video of September 2nd attack on a boat suspected of carrying drugs and defended the follow-up strike. So here it is. This is Congressman Hines of Connecticut. I think he's a ranking member on House Intelligence, I'm pretty sure, and a very sober guy in this partisan scale. He's not Adam Schiff, but here's his view when asked what he thought of the video.
What I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service. Any American who sees the video that I saw will see the United States military attacking shipwrecked sailors.
Okay, so he says the video is conclusive. One of the worst things he's seen, he said the word, any American. Now, as far as I know, you guys, Tom Cotton's an American, right? Tom Cotton of Arkansas is an American. Totally disagrees. Same video. Number 4, please.
Flip a boat, loaded with drugs, bound for the United States, back over so they could stay in the fight. And potentially, given all the context we heard, of other narco-terrorist boats in the area coming to their aid to recover their cargo and recover those narco-terrorists. And just like you would blow up a boat off of the Somali coast or the Yemeni coast, and you'd come back and strike it again if it still had terrorists and it still had explosives or missiles, Admiral Bradley and Secretary Head said did exactly what we would expect them to do. Yes, look, this is not like a firefight in some cave in Afghanistan that had 3 people. This was witnessed by literally hundreds of uniformed and civilian personnel at the Pentagon, at Fort Bragg, at other installations. Dozens of them were lawyers. Everybody was watching. Everybody had seen the intelligence and the legal basis leading up to these strikes. Everyone was present during it, and that continues to be the case. There's been no change in the guidance or the order that the Secretary has given to our troopers. And in subsequent strikes, there is an example where survivors actually were shipwrecked and distressed and not trying to continue on their mission. And they were treated, as they should be, as non-combatants. They were picked up by U.S. forces. Just an example of how, of course, our military always obeys the laws of war. Our military also acts within appropriate lawful authority.
Okay, so Senator Cotton was responding to reporters asking him about what Congressman Hines said. Seconds ago, while we were playing Tom Cotton, Congressman Hines was on CNN Live, and he was asked to respond to Tom Cotton, and he said, quote, Tom Cotton's facts are just plain wrong. So, Elizabeth, you're addressing, say, 7th graders, and they see this and they say, Professor Pipko, how could this be? How would you explain to a 7th grade class how this could be?
I didn't think you were going to ask me that. It's a really good question because honestly, I would go back kind of to how you started this, that we're at a really unfortunate politicized time where people are going to kind of pick a side depending on whether they have an R next to their name or a D next to their name. I mean, I watched the same videos you did. I mean, I think it was Himes, right, who came out and said that was literally the worst thing he'd ever seen in his career, like very J6 vibes. This was the worst thing to ever happen since Pearl Harbor, the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And then you have Republicans coming out saying if you've seen a drone strike before, you've seen it again now, it doesn't mean anything. So I'd say to 7th graders, I would tell them to stop paying attention to any of this and maybe when they're 18 to get involved. But I think for the average person, like you said, it's a very awkward time for Americans who don't all have the time to go research this strike by themselves and research actual laws around whether you can strike a military target several times, for example, in order to eliminate it and everything else that goes around this issue. And it's a sad time. Honestly, I hate the fact that we have to debate things, whether we are pro-Trump or anti-Trump, and can't just say, hey, this is legal or this is not. But in my eyes, as someone who has, been in Trump world for a very long time, this is to be expected. We have a midterm next year. Anything that is done that can be used and weaponized against Donald Trump is going to be, especially when we can go out and say that, Pete Hegseth is guilty of war crimes, which I obviously don't believe to be the case, but I expect a lot more of this over the next year.
Yeah. I'm going to ask Kevin. Well, first, let me tell you about some breaking news and on a different matter, which we'll talk about, but I just want to make sure people know about it in a timely way. The Supreme Court 6-3 ruling, the liberal justices, more result-oriented policymaking, upheld the Texas gerrymandered congressional map. So the lower court, I believe, right? The lower court had struck it down, but the Supreme Court says Texas can use it, and of course it's the Supreme Court. So that's a pretty big deal. That goes back into place. Doesn't mean they're going to win all 5, but they could. Kevin, I'll ask you first, just your spidey sense. If you saw the video, do you think you'd agree with Himes or Cotton?
Most likely Himes. I've known Jim Himes for a long time. He's a sober, kind of professional guy. Back, a decade ago, the Armed Services Committee and the Intelligence Committee were still vestiges of bipartisanship agreement. You still see it a little bit in the Senate before Marco Rubio became Secretary of State. He and Mark Warner of Virginia would do a lot of things together because the importance of that committee was so in the forefront. So I agree with Elizabeth. I hate that we view a lot of this national security issues through these kind of partisan lenses that we have. I think one of the solutions would be to have Admiral Bradley, testify in open committee to the point, where he's not releasing operational details or anything that's classified, and so that the American people could also see that second video in terms of the follow-up strike as well, not just that initial video that the members saw today. So I think, the president is all about transparency, and I agree with him. And I think that might be the next step, because you still have this kind of polarized view based on what the conversations were behind closed doors today between the members.
Elizabeth, do you think we'll ever see the second video?
I'm a little cynical, so I would lean to no, but I would hope that we do. I hate, Mark, that you always find normal Democrats that I can agree with on almost everything. More transparency is good. Donald Trump, like you said that we should see anything that they can release. So I do hope, obviously, that the American people see it. And I think they're a little too busy to take time out of their day when they're trying to put groceries on the table to have to look at this and make these decisions for themselves. But if that's what we have to do, I hope that gets done.
Do you think if you saw it, you'd agree with Congressman Himes or Senator Cotton?
No, probably Cotton.
Yeah. So again, just as like a sample here, you're both very reasonable people, and yet you guys did exactly what the members of Congress did. Without seeing the tape, I know them both a little bit, both the members. I wouldn't think either of those guys. Not only wouldn't they lie in a case like this, and of course the tape could come out, but I don't even think they'd shade. We're not dealing with give examples, probably get myself in trouble. This is not Adam Schiff and I don't know, who should I give on the other side?
Like old MTG.
Yeah, old MTG or Ron Johnson. Like these are two guys who I would think would give an honest appraisal. And yet Kevin said, well, I think I'd probably agree with Himes, and Elizabeth said I'd probably agree with Cotton. I really don't know, because I trust them both, but obviously these aren't shades. Himes said it's one of the worst things he'd ever seen, and that anybody who saw it would say this was like a war crime. And Cotton was like, no, this is just like the right thing to do. So I'm baffled and a little depressed by it, and we'll see what happens. Jonathan Turley, respected law professor who shades right these days, but has a reputation for trying to call balls and strikes. Here's what he said on Twitter, number 5. And this goes to the at least I think goes to the Hegseth part. War crimes claim seems to have utterly collapsed this afternoon after even the New York Times found that no order to, quote, kill them all was made by Hegseth. The admiral who explained the order of the second strike was based on the actions of the survivors. So maybe there's a video or something else that will contradict, but I doubt it, because that'd be a pretty ballsy thing to do if there's evidence that it's contradicted. This second tap was intended to follow through on the prescribed mission sanctioned by lawyers, which was to say we gotta destroy this boat and destroy its contraband, and we have to make sure it doesn't get shifted to another ship. And if that's the case, I won't say much ado about nothing, but we got to go back to accountability here and transparency. The Washington Post's original story that set this off seems not to have been right. Now, it could be their sources were wrong, and I tell people all the time, if Kevin and Elizabeth texted me separately and said, J.D. Vance is resigning, And I said, well, you guys pretty sure? And they both said yes. And then he didn't resign. Is that on me? Well, I guess. But if they're two quality sources like these two, and by the way, they both leaked to me like crazy, then who's wrong? I don't think the Washington Post made that up, but their source seems to have been wrong, right? Because the way the Post story read, that Pete Hegseth said kill them all, and nobody's saying he said kill them all. So here we go. You guys want to say anything else about that?
I think, Mark, just to follow on though, I watched the conversation that you had this morning with my friend Haima and others. There's a whole other debate that has to go on about war powers, and it's so funny now to see Congress now reasserting itself after decades of just ceding so much power and control to the executive, both Republicans and Democrats. And now their head comes up because of the salaciousness of this video, is really something. And there needs to be actual accountability, whether it be a Democrat or a Republican as a chief executive. And I think it's a problem for Democrats to kind of narrowly weave this, where we can't be the party defending narco terrorism. I support taking these folks off the battlefield to some degree in terms of making sure that fentanyl is not coming across the border, but there just has to be that accountability element to it. The Democrats can't be seen as the party of defending this idea.
Totally agree with you. I was on the radio with Sean Hannity today, and I kept saying, Sean, I'm not saying I'm against this, and I'm not saying I'm for narco terrorism. What I'm saying is there should be a debate about this, because Congress is supposed to be declare war, and this is like a war. And all the presidents, it's not a Trump thing. Every president, it's back to Bush. Bush 1 has done this, Reagan too. But we should be debating it. We shouldn't, and particularly if they're going to go into Venezuela, there should be a debate, not just full deference to the commander in chief, whoever that is. Elizabeth, anything else you want to say about this?
No, I mean, I think that's it. I appreciate the idea that we don't want, either party, obviously, but in this case, we don't want Democrats coming out and seeming as though they're the party to literally support anyone that seems to be on the opposite side of Donald Trump, in this case, narco terrorists. But I did see, I think it was Himes himself, I think it was MSNBC, I don't know where it was, but he said there's no such thing as a narco terrorist. So it seems that when Donald Trump is in office, it makes you say crazy things. And I think that's the problem here. We find ourselves always on the opposite side of the people we don't like, instead of just trying to actually debate normal issues for the American public. One day Donald Trump's not going to be in office. None of this will make sense anymore. We're going to keep doing it, and I just don't think the American people win.
Elizabeth, if you say MSNBC another time, you're going to have to Bart Simpson style write MS now on the blackboard 100 times.
They have 2 viewers. Who's going to pay attention?
100 times, so you're going to get writer's cramp. Raise your hand if you're on the platform, want to get in on the conversation. A gentleman named Brian Cole Jr. was charged today with planting the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC back around January 6th in 2021. And a lot of talk today from Pam Bondi, from Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, about how this was solved. They say there was no new evidence that came forward that allowed them to find this guy after all this time. Again, he's alleged to have done it. They simply poured back over the data. Here is Pam Bondi, number 10, please.
Early this morning, Brian Cole Jr. was arrested and charged with placing the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC on January 5th, 2021. He has been charged with violating 18 U.S.C. 844, which is use of an explosive device. This investigation is ongoing. As we speak, search warrants are being executed, and there could be more charges to come. I'm going to let our U.S. Attorney discuss that shortly. This was the work of multiple agencies working together. This morning's operation was carried out safely and successfully.
Either of you want to say anything about this? It's crazy to me it took this long to catch someone who lived in the Washington, D.C. area, but either of you want to comment on that?
I'll just say, as the Democrat, it's a credit to, and I used to spend a lot of time on television with Pam Bondi before she became Attorney General, and Jeanine Pirro on the 5 when I was co-hosting with her, and all credit to them for putting this together. I do wonder, as they've said, there's no new evidence that has come out. I do wonder if there was, for example, some new AI platform or something like that they've been using, where they just bring all the cell phone data, the purchasing data of the parts from the bomb together to form kind of this perfect union to find this individual. That would be of interest, I think, to the American people too. If there's kind of new law enforcement tools out there that using the power of AI or some other platform that can piece all of these disparate information sources together would be really, really cool in this. But thank God, hopefully that this is the guy and that they got him.
Great perspective. Elizabeth, anything you want to say about it?
No, I mean, same thing. Obviously, if there's some cool new technology or anything that led to this, that would be really interesting in general. I just want to know why it took so long. We talked about January 6th every day for the last 5 years, 6 years, whatever it's been. I'd like to know if this guy was in Washington, D.C. I'd like to know why it took so long and what there is to find out, because they've investigated everything but seem to have forgotten about this man. So I'm very curious what we learn.
Was Pam Bondi on the 5?
We never were on the 5 together, but back when I think it was either the first or second impeachment, she was like the point person for media, and I spent a lot of time on different panels with her. She's great.
Yeah.
That might get her in trouble and probably gets me in trouble.
It's like CSI Fox News.
Exactly.
Either of you follow California politics a lot?
Sure.
Yeah. Elizabeth, dabble?
Yeah, I do when I have to. Yeah.
Okay. So again, the way California has their elections, this is for state or federal office, top 2, open primary. Everybody runs. You're listed what party you're in, but everybody runs together. And if the top vote getter gets 16% of the vote and the number 2 gets 15, they go to the general election. Often that's 2 Democrats because it's California. But somebody wrote a column the other day and said it's possible to elect a Republican governor of California because of the major candidates in the race. You got about 8 major-ish Democrats, and you've got 2 major-ish Republicans. And what people are saying is, what if the Democrats split the Democratic vote evenly, because nobody jumps out to a big enough number to get in the top 2, and the top 2 vote getters end up being Republicans? And I thought it made a lot of sense to me. I'm not a math genius, but I got out the abacus and I played with it, and it made sense. Here's a new poll from Emerson. This is the first one since Congressman Swalwell got in the race. Congressman Swalwell entered the race in part a Democrat because former Congresswoman Porter was seen as a very weak and wounded frontrunner. No Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, term limited. Here's the poll. Chad Bianco, who I believe is a sheriff, right? He's a sheriff, 13%. Eric Swalwell, 12. Steve Hilton, commentator, another Fox guy, 12. Katie Porter, 11. And then former Mayor Villaraigosa, billionaire Tom Steyer, former Cabinet Secretary Becerra, 4%. Undecided, a whopping 31, right? And it'd be interesting to look at the crosstabs and see how much that 31's Democrat. But there's no doubt, if you look at this poll, as far as I'm concerned, that Bianco and Hilton could get Republican and independent vote, get up to 20 and 19, and that could be enough to win the thing. And then Democrats would be shut out. Now, what people say is, well, if that happens, they do a recall. Well, whatever. That's a whole down the road. So, Elizabeth, play with the math. Does it seem like this theory could be right under the current? If no one breaks out, you could see 2 Republicans in the finals.
I mean, clearly, yes. If all these people remained in, we could see it. Based on Democrats knowing how many people in California would be really, really upset if this happened somehow, I'm going to assume a majority are going to come together, like they should have done, by the way, in New York City, but they learned their lesson. They're going to come together and say who's dropping out to make sure this doesn't happen.
Yeah. Kevin, if you were a DNC chair or California Democratic Party chair, what would you do about this to make sure that didn't happen?
I'd have some serious conversations with folks to make sure that didn't happen. Now, we know politicians have huge egos, and especially if you're running for the 4th largest economy in the world, I don't think there's anyone that can talk you out of running. But we'll see if that dynamic plays out. We saw something similar with Eric Adams, right? Pulling from Andrew Cuomo in the New York municipal, and cooler heads prevailed with Andrew, with the mayor stepping back. But it is interesting. We've seen it play out in congressional elections where there's been 2 Republicans at the top or 2 Democrats. Obviously, Kamala Harris, when she got elected to the Senate, ran against, I think, one of the Sanchez sisters, the 2 Democrats at the top of the ticket. So we'll certainly see how that process plays out.
Yeah,
I think it's also, Tom Steyer's at 4%. He's a billionaire. He's going to try and buy this election and inundate Californians with everything. So it's still pretty early on.
It is, but again, you just can't rule it out. It's going to be interesting to see.
Very true.
Because I'll say this, with no disrespect meant to any of the 10 or so people we showed you with some percentage of the vote, none of them are world beaters. None of them are just spectacular. And more. The other thing is more people could get in. Rick Caruso, for instance, could get in. And the more people who get in, the more they divide up the vote. A couple things being reported here while we're on the air. First of all, several news organizations reporting that the grand jury, they went back to the grand jury in Virginia to try to get them to re-indict Letitia James, and they declined. That doesn't mean it's the end of the road. You can keep going back, but the Trump administration was trying to get Letitia James re-indicted because, of course, the acting U.S. attorney who had done the first grand jury round, the court said wasn't authorized to do that. And then going back to Brian Cole, the alleged pipe bomber, according to the Daily Wire, he worked to get illegal immigrants out of ICE facilities, and he sued Donald Trump's DHS. The Court of Appeals ruled against him weeks before January 6, 2021. And he later hired Trayvon Martin's attorney to call on Joe Biden's Department of Justice to punish anti-Black racism. And there you see a picture of him. So this is the alleged pipe bomber has a public profile, has a connection to public life, and that's not typical of situations like this. All right, a couple more things, and then we're going to get to your questions and comments. We have a special guest at the end of the program as well, so stay tuned for that. But before we go to a couple more news stories, let me sneak in another message from another sponsor. And this is from our friends at Brickhouse. They're having a sale on brickhousesale.com. Goes right to the website, 30% off everything. This is for nutrition. If you're looking to live a healthier lifestyle, the various products available from Brickhouse Nutrition come made by doctors. Healthy results for health, nutrition, and doctor-formulated weight loss methods. Lean, for instance, lose weight without injections. Lose weight, not gain 30, lose 30, but in a consistent quality way. Again, doctor-formulated weight loss supplement. People who want to lose weight in a healthy way. Field of Greens, super fruit and vegetable drink. And all this available to you, 30% off right now. Go to blackhousesale.com to take 30% off everything on the site. Better sleep, superior health. Try it if you're looking for a way to do that. And again, this is a Black Friday sale, so it will not last forever. brickhousesale.com. No promo code. Just go to brickhousesale.com. Thank you for your attention to that matter. All right, let's bring in Peter for a question, and then a couple more news stories I want to cover. But Peter, you're driving the automobile, so I'll indemnify you to somehow unmute without pulling over. I won't look. But
Okay.
Go ahead, Peter.
All right. I'll say that this is from my background. I'm an attorney, but I'm a retired U.S. Army officer, and I was an MI intelligence officer. And I want to do this in a respectful way. I understand Congressman Hines is not a firebrand partisan, but the kind of, and I'm not trying to necessarily throw him under the bus, but didn't Congressman Hines, when he was further questioned about this, he said that he still maintains complete confidence in the Admiral. It's Admiral Bradley, right? And so I guess my point about that is, if he really believes that, if he says, well, I still have complete confidence in Admiral Bradley, he's being completely disingenuous, because one of the whole themes that has been going on for the past 2 weeks is that the Trump administration is doing things illegally under the rules of war and issuing illegal orders. And they keep saying, to use their mantra, their talking points is, following orders didn't work at Nuremberg. That's become their talking point. And the point is, if that's the case, and this was an illegal order, and he is the admiral, he completely went ahead. He is completely supporting this.
Okay,
this
Peter,
thing.
Stop 1 second. I don't know that Hines said that because I didn't hear everything he said today. I'll ask my colleagues. Do we have that soundbite, or does anybody know exactly what he said along those lines?
We don't have the bite. We'll check.
Okay, Peter, let's stand by. Just hold on with us for a minute, and let us check. While we do that, I want to tell you about another story and get everybody's reaction here. This is interesting. This is the governor of Minnesota, Mr. Walz, who, of course, was on the ticket with Kamala Harris, and has been attacked repeatedly by the president for a variety of things, including this scandal of misuse of government money, a bunch of fraudulent schemes, some COVID-related, not all, and many done by people from Somalia or originally of Somalian descent. And so today, The governor responded somewhat passionately, somewhat emotionally. I will play the whole thing for you. Here's number 8, Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz.
Okay with the president calling our neighbors garbage? Are you okay with him referring to Minnesota as a hellhole, unfactually untrue? This creates danger. And I'll tell you what, in my time on this, I'd never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word in front of people. This is shameful. And I have yet to see an elected official, a Republican elected official, say, you're right, that's shameful. He should not say it. So look, I'm worried. We know how these things go. They start with taunts, they turn to violence. So deeply concerned.
Elizabeth, if they were sitting around, had that on at the White House, what do you think they'd say?
If they had that on, there'd just be a lot of laughter. I mean, we've been laughing at him for a while. I think he'll go down as the worst VP pick in many, many years. I honestly did not think Kamala was a good candidate. And I thought that was the worst pick that she could have possibly made. He continues to prove our point. I don't know. I think when you're facing the fraud scandal that you're facing, he's lucky the president insulted him because he gets to flip the script and talk about this instead of the actual scandal that most people want to hear about.
Yeah, Kevin, it is an incredible scandal. It truly is. And it's clear, why many are jumping on it to highlight it legitimately, but also for political purposes. What do you think when you see Governor Walz saying those things?
Listen, it elevates Tim Walz. He's running for re-election. They're each other's favorite foibles, in terms of talking about the MRI release on Air Force One. So it's good politics for Governor Walz, and it's good politics for the president. I still think Spiro Agnew was probably the worst VP pick in recent memory, but maybe Tim Walz a second. Obviously, it was just 107 days, but who knows? But listen, this is 250 million to 1 billion estimated as part of this fraud. And I give a lot of credit to Keith Ellison, the Democratic Attorney General of Minnesota, working with the feds to investigate this and prosecute that. 50 people have already pled guilty. I also like that there is more accountability that we're seeing, not just in Minnesota, but across the board. I'll call out, my own Congresswoman, Democrat from Florida, that is now accused of misusing all these COVID dollars in the heady days of COVID, where everyone was just taking free money from the government. It is good to see this accountability, whether it be Republicans or Democrats at fault. And again, we'll see how this process plays out.
I don't read the chat, but I glanced at it. Somebody said Walz Lake makes Spiro Agnew look like Socrates. I'm not sure that's factually true, but it is funny. Something you just said, Kevin, made me have a question, but I can't think of what it is. Again, raise your hand if you're here on the platform, want to get a question in. Because we got a guest coming, I want to sneak in another sponsor, and then back to questions. President Trump says he met with the parents of Andrew Wolf. He's the surviving National Guard member who was shot last week, and he's still recovering. This is remarks he made at the lighting of the National Christmas tree. He also said he wanted to pay his respects to Sarah Beckstrom, of course, who died in that same incident. All right, a quick word from a sponsor, and then again, raise your hand if you want to ask a question. This is from our folks at chefiq.com. Chef IQ Sense wireless cooking thermometer. Did you guys have turkey for Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
How was it?
It would have been better with this tool, I'm sure.
Yeah, yes,
it wasn't undercooked.
Would have been better because the thermometer from Chef IQ Sense wireless cooking. You go in the app and you can get 30% off this right now. Cooking turkey, chicken, prime rib, whatever you're making, it does the rest. Tells you how long to leave it in, when to take it out, and even how long to let it cool after you're done. Food comes out perfectly cooked every time. It's I won't say it's magic. It's not sorcery. If you buy this, you will not be arrested for sorcery, but it does make cooking everything easier, and it's a great gift for people on your list. Hard to buy for. It's smart, useful, makes cooking fun and easy. Again, whether you're using a grill or oven, whatever you're using. Get back to doing other stuff. Get your shopping done. Go to chefiq.com. Promo code 2way, 30% off. chefiq.com. Promo code 2way. All right, another thing I want to show you here. This is, let me find it here. This Kevin Hassett, widely rumored now to be the choice to be on the Fed, and still going out and doing cable news hits. I don't know, like maybe pull it back. But Kevin was on Fox today, and he's been like his colleague Scott Bessent. He's been very bullish on the economy. Here's Kevin Hassett on Fox, number 20, please.
One of the things that we've seen and we've studied over the last couple of weeks is that when there's a government shutdown, then the things that we economists call the soft data, the survey data, tend to really, really tank because everyone's in a terrible mood because Washington can't work and the government shut down and they're worried about how bad it's going to be. But the hard data are what do people actually do with their lives, with their pocketbooks. And so, for example, we just saw the best Black Friday ever. People went out getting ready for the Christmas holiday shopping season, feeling very, very optimistic about the economy. As we go into next year, don't forget that all the people who have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, who are going to be able to deduct the interest on their car loan if they buy a car, all those things are kicking in big time as we go into next year. That's why Secretary Bessent and I are both very confident that we're going to be looking at growth in the foreign numbers for the first half of next year.
So, we look forward to that. And those things all point in that direction. We'll see what happens in the beginning of the year in the first quarter.
All right, leaving aside the economy, because none of us know and nobody knows. Elizabeth, if you were given media advice to Kevin, Kevin Hassett, you got any pointers for him of how he could up his game?
I actually think Kevin's really, really good in media. I think there's a reason he's out as like one of the main representatives from this administration. You don't see many people out there more than him, besides maybe Caroline and Stephen Miller. I think he's always everywhere, and that's great. I think he speaks very, I'd say, down to earth in a way that most people would prefer to hear about the economy. I think for many folks that really don't understand what's going on, and I don't blame them because they're getting screams from both sides of the aisle, depending, again, if they have an R next to their name or a D next to their name. And because midterms are coming up, everyone wants the economy to obviously crash if they're Democrats or to do really well if they're Republicans. I think people like listening to him, and I do think he calms people down. At the same time, I think no matter what happens in the world, the affordability situation is the only thing anyone's voting on next year, truly. So I'm hoping that he's right. And he's been more accurate than most cable news pundits over the last few months. And I do think things are going in a good direction. I'm happy he's the one representing the administration on this topic.
Kevin, are you as bullish on his skills, or would you offer him some friendly advice to up his game?
Listen, I think, and take it from the guy that tried to sell Bidenomics for 4 years as a Biden surrogate to the American people. Like, perception is everything. And, Politico led with this new poll. 50% of Americans think that the cost of living is the worst that they've had in their lifetimes, including 37% of Trump voters from 2024. So there is a little bit of a disconnect in terms of some of the great indicators of this economy and people not feeling it. We had the same dynamic under the Biden administration, where people weren't feeling, and we were out there saying, okay, we're the best of the G7 countries, we're doing all this stuff. But if people are still struggling, as indicated in these polls, and to Elizabeth's point, when we saw that reflective in terms of the affordability argument in the electoral scene in New Jersey and Virginia, then that's going to be a problem. And I think, Scott Bessent is actually a pretty good spokesperson for the administration. He was out there on the no tips, tax on tips at local businesses, right? He was at Morton's Tavern and other places, right? I think the more the administration is doing that and highlighting that is important, but then also acknowledging some of the frustrations that Americans are feeling to the point of these polls.
The vice president, in his interview with NBC News today, did a pretty deep acknowledgement of people are hurting and saying, we need to do more and things might be better next year. Contrast that with the president with moments ago speaking at the Christmas tree lighting. And we'll have this video for you, I hope, in just a minute. But he said, our economy is thriving. Inflation has stopped. Our nation is strong. Little different emphasis than the vice president. All right, let's go to Chris Taylor. Chris, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for Kevin and for Elizabeth. After you unmute, of course.
Hey, I think I'm unmuted.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
We do.
Okay, cool.
Floor is yours.
So that Bessent clip, and I think you just mentioned Christmas again, shopping for Christmas. I was just going to point out birthday also works. And if you let your kids know about...
yeah. There you go. How's that Fairway and Green piece of equipment working for you? Pretty comfortable.
So we're in northern Idaho. It's snowing for the last couple days. I've been doing a lot of shoveling, and it also works on the with the shovel. So you don't just need the golf course open, but
yeah. All right, Chris. Well, it looks handsome on you, and I'm glad you got it.
Yeah, very, very happy with it. So this might be a question. I'm sorry, I'm off topic today, but this might be a question more for your dad, Mark. Is a question around using the floor, whether House or Senate, to divulge classified information. How often
Yeah.
does it happen? And I don't know. Maybe it's for your dad, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. My dad's not on. I just checked. Otherwise, I go to him. But I understand what you're asking. Either of you know what the history of that is, of members using their privileges to go on the floor and to say whatever they want, including classified stuff?
Obviously it's protected, right, constitutionally. We
Yeah.
saw that with Nancy Mace
Yeah.
most recently, right, and her sagas and stuff like that. But I don't know about the release of classified information,
All right.
and I don't know if that also extends to committee hearings too, Mark, or if it's just the floor.
I think it's just the
Just the
floor,
floor,
but
yeah.
I'll ask my dad.
That's a
Maybe-
great question.
Yeah, it is. Chris, stand by. Let's even get my dad. I got to sneak in one more ad because we're getting our special guest here in just a minute. So stand by. And here we go. Last ad is from the folks at CB Distillery. 25% off. Go to cbdistillery.com. Promo code two-way. Holidays can be hectic. Maybe you exercise and overeat, whatever it is. If you need better sleep, be more relaxed, here's an opportunity for you, for yourself or for gifts. The product's a CB Distillery, made with premium quality, clean ingredients, no fillers, nothing artificial. They have over 2 million customers. 100% money back guarantee. It's a gift you can feel good about giving, or buy some for yourself for the holidays. Use the promo code two-way, save 25% off your entire purchase. Go to cbdistillery.com, promo code two-way, 25% off, cbdistillery.com. An opportunity for you to try what 2 million people have tried and found effective for sleep, relaxation, dealing with pain after exercise. Go to cbdistillery.com. Product availability depends on your individual state. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I asked earlier about the vice president's interview. He said there were 3 elected Democrats whose oeuvre he enjoyed. He thought they were interesting, and they believed in what they were doing, and he enjoyed them, impressed by them. Kevin, you want to guess who the 3 are?
It's a good question, Mark. I'm trying to think of like his colleagues, right? Because he was in the Senate for 4.
Yeah.
Was
All right.
just 2 or 4 years?
One's a senator. They're all 3 elected
Okay.
Democrats. One's a senator, one's a House member, and one is not in federal office.
Maybe Mark Cuban not in federal office?
No, they're all elected. They've all been elected.
Oh, they're
to
all
public.
elected.
They're all
Okay,
been
so they're
elected,
all
but
elected.
one's not a federal elected official.
Well, I think
one senator, one congressman person.
maybe
What do you think?
Rokon
Rokon is correct. Those 2 have sparred on Twitter, but Rokon is one. Senator, current senator.
Current senator.
Yeah. People are getting it in the chat. Very impressive.
That's a good question.
Bernie Sanders. He said Bernie Sanders came up to him shortly after he was elected to the Senate and said something to him that he would not divulge, although I'm going to make him divulge it at some point because it seems he said Bernie said something to him basically at how they saw eye to eye on some things. And then the last one, of course, is the newly elected mayor of my city, Mayor Mamdani. Elizabeth, that probably makes you pretty happy to hear that.
It's actually not a surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, not a surprise. Anyway,
he just wants to lift up all the wackos on my side. I think that he can beat in 3 years.
Yeah. So I'm in the podcast business now, and so I'm always on the lookout for fresh new talent, young people who might be able to maybe partner with Two-Way and elevate their podcast to another level. And ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you both before I bring them in. Kevin, how hard is it to raise $100 million to run against an incumbent senaor? How hard is that?
Unless you're a billionaire starting out, it's pretty.
Raise, not self-funding. How hard is it to raise $100 million? Hard, right?
Very hard.
Elizabeth, how hard is it to raise $100 million to run against an incumbent senator?
It is very hard. Very, very hard. You have to run against like an AOC or someone to actually get people to care.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jamie Harrison's done so much in his career, rebuilt the South Carolina Democratic Party, chaired the Democratic National Committee, but I'm constantly referring to you, Mr. Chairman, because how much did you raise to run against Lindsey Graham?
It ended up being $132 million.
Yeah. So you think about people thinking about running.
It's sinful.
Yeah.
It's sinful.
How much of it was online?
The vast majority. I mean, we raised in one quarter, I think it was $57 million in a quarter.
So Mr. Chairman, like when Marco Rubio ran what year did you run?
Yeah, I was in 2020.
2020. So Rubio ran for president in 2016. He thought I'm going to be an awesome online fundraiser. He raised about 20 cents online. Has anybody ever raised as much as you raised? I don't think so, right?
Well, I think Ossoff, when you combine he had a runoff. So when you combine that,
but you're the champion. Let's just be honest. How did you do it? How is it that you, of all people, hold the record for that? And again, I don't think Ossoff was an open seat, right? You were running against an incumbent. Was he running
Yeah.
against an incumbent? So
Yeah,
you're
I was-
running against an incumbent Republican in South Carolina, and you raised $100+ million. Just explain how you did that.
Well, I think partly Lindsey was somebody that everybody loved to hate, particularly nationally. And, I held my own in debates with him, and you have those moments, and those moments go viral, and we had him on the defensive. I mean, it got to the point where Lindsey would go on Fox News with Sean Hannity, basically crying. He's like, "Please help me! They're killing me down here." I mean, he was really, really scared. And I tell you, Mark, it was the October surprise for us was when Justice Ginsburg passed away, because that put Lindsey on the offensive, because then he was the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and he gets an opportunity in that last month of October to put on a new Supreme Court justice on the Supreme Court. So we had him on the defensive because we were beating the hell out of him about COVID and his COVID response. And then when he got that opportunity to put Justice Amy Coney Barrett on, it put us on the defensive and him on the offense.
Yeah, amazing. We're going to talk to the chairman. I'm going to talk to him a little bit about his podcast, and then take your questions for him. So if you got a question for the chairman, please raise your hand. Kevin and Elizabeth, couldn't be more grateful to you for making time. Love to see you both. Kevin, I hope you'll come back. And Elizabeth, we always love having you back. But thank you both. Grateful
Thank
to you.
you.
Thanks,
All right.
Mark. Great to see Jamie too. He's a hero of mine, and he's responsible for us not having a red wave in the midterms in 2022 with his leadership of the DNC.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah,
I appreciate
incredible
that.
guy.
Yeah. Kevin, thank you. And again, great to have you on. All right, Mr. Chairman, let's first talk about your podcast, At Our Table. You're a busy man. You got a lot to do. How old are your kids?
11 and 6, and we
11.
just got off a Disney cruise for Thanksgiving. So, there's a reason why I don't have any hair. I had a lot of drinks though.
Disney cruise for Thanksgiving. That must have been a trip.
It was. It was nice. It was nice.
Yeah. All right. At Our Table, we'll put up the graphics so people can see. Tell people when it's on and how it's a special podcast for you.
Yep. New episode every Tuesday. And really, Mark, the name comes from the interactions I had with my grandparents. I was raised by my grandparents because my mom was 16 when she had me. And so every Sunday we would sit at our table, and that's when you had the real discussions. And they were frank. Some of them were filled with love and joy. Some of them were, there was some heat. And so, but they were honest. And so I really wanted to do something where Democrats could go past the MSNBC and CNN 5-minute hits and just talk about who they are and what their values are, and give people a sense, because right now we're in a phase in the Democratic Party where we're looking for new leaders, but you need to know who they are. And you're not going to find that from an MSNBC hit or a CNN hit. And so it's really giving people a seat at the table to show people who they are. I've really enjoyed it. We've had some really interesting guests, from Hunter Biden to Tim Walz to Wes Moore. And next week's episode, we're having Rachel Maddow. So I'm really, it was a great interview, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with folks.
Yeah. So you and I both know people in media, politics have started podcasts. And I always look for two things. Is the host a natural host? And can the host book a great show? And you're 2 for 2, Mr. Chairman. You're a great host. I didn't know what to expect, but every time I've listened, you're just a natural conversationalist and ask interesting things. But also, I'm jealous of your booking. One of the people you had, who's a veteran of two-way, is Ro Khanna.
Yeah,
and,
I love Ro. The Ro
yeah.
conversation was really good.
Yeah, it was really good. He does a ton of media, but yours is special. And again, if you want insight into Congressman Khanna, who's a regular here on Two Way, I recommend that episode to you in particular. I think after Gavin Newsom, his fellow Californian, Ro Khanna has had the best year of anybody who might run for president in terms of from point A to point B. He's famous now. And people start to get a sense of what he's like. Grew up in Pennsylvania, now in Silicon Valley. Talk about the success of Ro Khanna this year. How would you explain how he's gone from where he was to where he is now in a pretty envious position for a previously unknown House member?
Yeah, one, Congress hadn't gotten much done, and Ro was one of the few bills that actually got passed, which was his Epstein bill.
Yeah.
And it got a lot of play, and it was a passionate something, and it was bipartisan. So it wasn't a partisan effort there. And so, Roe is just very direct about who he is and what his values are and what he's fighting for. I tell him sometimes, I said, you don't need to fight every fight though, Roe. You don't need to get online and start fighting with everybody about every single thing. But he's a good guy. His heart is in the right place, and he just wants the country to be better for all of its people. And I've really I've enjoyed getting to know him. And he's going to be one of 15, 20, or 100 people who decide to file for the presidency in 2028, and it's going to be interesting.
When do you think your party will determine the order of the early states?
I think that will happen right after the midterms. When I was chair, we pretty much got the go ahead. It was right after the midterm election, and then and I think that's probably what's going to happen again.
Okay. And do you have a sense, because you know the process well, New Hampshire's going to go first no matter what? And so the question is...
Not necessarily. Look, I got my mug here. First in the nation. You see that South Carolina flag. We're still going to fight for it.
Well, they'll go first. Their law says they have to go first.
Oh, yeah.
The question is, will it be sanctioned?
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
And sanction's an interesting word because it has two meanings. They're both applicable here. Sanction meaning it's approved, or sanction meaning they're punished.
And it could be both.
It could be both. Sometimes, of course, in the history, ever since Iowa and New Hampshire started to get challenged, sometimes New Hampshire goes first. The party says you're going to be punished, and then all is forgiven, and they get to go. And I think they figured that out. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to bring in one of the members of our community. He's from Georgia, so I know you start with the negative impression.
My mom and sister live in Georgia, so half of my family's in Georgia.
All right. Well, you went to an Ivy League school. How do you feel about that? Here's Chris from Georgia. Chris, welcome in. Thank you for being part of the community. We love having you. Question for the chairman.
I got a quick two-parter.
Yes, sir.
They're going to go in totally different directions. The first one you'll enjoy answering, which is, what do you think Trump's behavior since he got in office is going to do to the inroads he achieved with Black and brown voters?
Okay, hold on. Let the chairman answer that. Jamie, what do you think the impact has been, given that he did perform better than many thought he might last time?
He did perform better, but if you take a look at the response of these special elections and performance there, I mean, he and his actions, and I think Republican actions, have pushed those people back into the Democratic column. I mean, the numbers are right back. This is the thing. Donald Trump, similar to Barack Obama, they do something different to the electorate. But when Barack Obama or Donald Trump is not on the ballot, folks tend to go back to their natural places. And we saw it in the midterm, and that's what I knew in the midterm elections in 2022. But again, when you have Trump or you have Obama on the ballot, they just do different things because they are bigger than just a normal D and R, right? They're cultural figures, and they can pull at different parts of the electorate in different ways. And so I think, many of the inroads Republicans made with Trump in 24, they will all disappear in 26 and definitely in 28.
Okay,
Chris, real quick on this one, Chris, if you would.
What do you say to my belief that the only reason the Democrats let Kamala be the nominee was because the party was scared that Black women would revolt, despite the fact that she's not a great politician?
Well, listen, as the person who had to oversee that process, and there was a process, nobody else decided that they wanted to step up. That day, it was Jim Clyburn's birthday. He called me that morning, and I thought, because I had texted him earlier to wish him happy birthday, I thought he was just calling me back to say thank you. And he calls me and he says, he said, this is one hell of a birthday. And I said, why? He said, well, I just got a phone with Joe, and Joe called me and said he's not running. I said, Joe Biden? He said, yeah, he's not running. He said, so I don't know if you have a plan, but he's going to put out two statements.
Jamie, truth to the rumor that Obama tried to get Clyburn not to endorse her, but he jumped the gun so he'd have to.
I'm gonna let Clyburn talk about his interactions with the president.
Okay.
Yeah. But I will say this: I called shortly thereafter, after Biden announced that he was not going to run. I called anybody who I thought was going to be a legitimate candidate. So Pritzker, Shapiro, Westmore, all those guys, Whitmer. And I asked them, are you going to run? And they all said, no, we are going to support Kamala Harris. Or I just got off the phone with Kamala Harris and I'm supporting her. So, but the process was there for somebody else to get in. They all decided not to.
Chris, thank you. Jamie, if someone else had run, the fact that they were Biden-Harris delegates, would that have made a difference on the first ballot?
No, it wouldn't have, because then the delegates were not pledged to anybody. So somebody could have run, and then I had set up a process where we were going to do some TV, town halls, and then we would have had a process where any of the viable candidates could then present themselves to the delegates. But it was going to be in a 2-week window, Mark. I mean, but it was a process.
Did anybody, if to the extent anybody seriously thought about it, who thought about it most seriously?
There was one that thought about it, but I have to save that for my book that's coming out.
All right. See how poker faced you are. Was it Josh Shapiro?
No, it wasn't Josh. Josh was one who told me straight up that he was going to be supporting Kamala.
Because I think your friend Speaker Pelosi, I think, was pretty keen on Josh Shapiro.
Yeah. There were a lot of people who really wanted Josh, and there were talks of Josh and Gretchen Whitmer. The people were talking about Mark Kelly. I mean, there are a lot of different folks that I heard.
Yeah.
But the one stumbling block though, Mark, was if it had been anybody other than Kamala, they would have had to start from ground zero.
Yeah.
Meaning
hire staff, raise the money.
Yes,
everything.
they couldn't have inherited any of Biden's staff, and that $100 million that we had in the bank, they couldn't use. We would have had to transfer that all over to the DNC, and then the DNC would have to use it, but they really would have had to start from ground zero.
How soon can we see your book to find out who the person who almost ran was?
It's coming along. It's coming along.
All right. Right now, turn over to Michael's show. I'm blanking on my friend Michael's name. Michael Moynihan. Thank you. Michael Moynihan. Right now, pre-tape, so it's on two-way on the YouTube channel, Robbie Suave, the group chat. Tomorrow on the morning meeting, Mr. Chairman, the reason I'm saying this in front of you, our guest host on the morning meeting, Washington radio talk show host Larry O'Connor, and our Democrat, a fellow named Jaime Moore.
Oh, you got Jaime.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Chairman, I have to say, of all the great decisions you've made in your career, that man is a genius.
I love Jaime. He was so good for me. He helped run my office for a while I was at the DNC. Just a natural talent, and he really, really good. I'm very proud of Jaime.
Yeah, I'm just so impressed by him, and he was on this morning, and he's on again tomorrow. So 9:00 Eastern Time morning meeting. Larry O'Connor and myself in 23 hours. Our final program of the week. We'll see you tomorrow night, Mr. Chairman. I hope you'll come back regularly. I'd love for you to be able to take more
Mark,
questions.
I absolutely would love to do so.
Okay. Loved having you on. Congratulations on surviving the cruise. And again, really congratulations on the podcast. You and I, we won't name them, but there's lots of people in public life who started podcasts and they're snoozes. And yours is a treat. And again, extremely well booked. Thank you. Thank you. Happy holidays, Mr. Chairman. We hope to see you soon.
Same to you, Mark. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you all for being part of the two-way community. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Have a good night.